here is my England starting 11 for the Euros. Now, I'm really excited. The Euros is coming on the horizon now. We've kind of got through this January transfer window. I feel like that was the final big stumbling block, the wall between us and the Euros. I cannot wait for it. Genuinely, I am so excited. It feels like it's just around the corner. So I thought let's go through my England starting 11, kind of go through all the positions, talk about the kind of situations and the discussions and arguments and debates that could potentially be had, and then give you my opinions on it. So starting off in goal for me, it's got to be Jordan Pickford. Jordan Pickford has to start for England. Now, you look at it as a whole situation, there is a bit of a saga when it comes to the England goalkeeper situation, but for me, Pickford's had a really, really good season. He's been absolutely elite for Everton, and he has been for the last couple of seasons. He gets a lot of harsh criticism, including from myself in previous years, but I do really like him. I feel like he's kind of come on this journey, and I think he's matured as a goalkeeper. We're not seeing this kind of like passion that we used to see, where there's a fine line between passion and head loss. And I always used to think he was kind of pushing towards the head loss, but Pickford seems to be a lot more grounded, a lot more calm. So for me, he's got to start for England. And then when you compare him to the other goalkeepers they could be playing against, Nick Pope, who currently is still injured, so we can't really discuss him at the moment. Maybe when he comes back to form, but even then, Gareth Southgate will never start him. Then the other keeper is Aaron Ramsdale, and Aaron Ramsdale is too busy on the side for David Raya. He's not a goal. He's not playing every single week, and he doesn't convince me as a goalkeeper at the moment. So I don't think you can really throw him into the England setup. I know we've seen in other positions Gareth Southgate play players even though they're not playing for their clubs, but I don't think you can do that with a goalkeeper. Like, a goalkeeper has to be playing week in, week out to get that match kind of sharpness. So I don't think Ramsdale can play. And then the other goalkeepers that could really be discussion, Dean Henderson has been pretty awful, let's be honest, for Palace so far this season. Sam Johnston, who was dropped, wasn't dropped, but he was injured, and then he hasn't got back into the fold yet. So I think it's got to be Pickford. I don't think really it's a debate, to be honest. I think Pickford has had a very good season. He's got a starting goal, and he's been good for us in other tournaments. And now onto the right back for England, who should be starting. Now, there's a lot of people that like to discuss so many players, but for me, it's got to be Trent Alexander-Arnold. This guy has gone to another level, and people like to kind of push the narrative that he can't defend. We've seen him really improve this season, and especially going forward. I think arguably he's probably one of the, if not the best right back on the planet right now. So for me, he has to start. The other players that can be in discussion, Reece James, he's never fit, let's be honest. Then the others are Kieran Trippier, which Kieran Trippier, I know he played very well against Aston Villa, but I don't think he's been up to his recent form has been pretty awful. He hasn't been up to the standards that he'd set himself before. But I think Trent offers you everything that Trippier can offer you and more. I think that's the difference. When you compare with both Walker and Trippier, obviously Walker offers you so much defensively, but I think Trent offers you a lot more going forward. And I think the trade-off of what Trent can do going forward is a lot more important than what Walker can do going backwards, because you've got other defenders that can cover. Kyle Walker's had a very, very good season, but I personally, I'm still not convinced with him in the England setup. I want attacking. We've got to be a bit. I think we've in previous tournaments been a bit too defensively minded. We've got to get players like Trent Alexander-Arnold into the team to push on forward, to attack other teams. So I think Trent's got to start for me. As I said, Walker's been a very good servant for England. Great to have in the dressing room, probably good to have as a backup, but I want to be on the front foot with this England side, so that's why I'd be starting him. Now onto the centre-backs position. Now the centre-back position is quite an interesting one for England. There's a lot of people that can be thrown into the hat, but for me, the two players that should be starting for England in the Euros in centre-back position has got to be John Stones and Lewis Dunk. Now, I know a lot of people will straight away ask me why those two. Now, John Stones, I think, picks himself, let's be honest, being a part of the treble-winning side. He's been absolutely integral to this Man City team. Then Lewis Dunk is the one that a lot of people go, what on earth are you on about? Well, Lewis Dunk's had a very good season with Brighton. He's been very, very consistent now for many years. And now we can see he can play as a ball-playing centre-back, and he can play in that low block. He's played in the low block system for many years at Brighton. So he kind of can do the best of both worlds. And I think when you compare him to somebody like Harry Maguire, he can do everything that Harry Maguire can do in the low block, but he offers you more going forward, offers you more on the ball. And I think that's massive, because we're going to be playing now, and we've seen it, we've kind of transitioned with this England side with Southgate into a four at the back system, trying to play out and trying to play some better football. And I think Lewis Dunk will be huge for that. So Lewis Dunk has got to start for me. Harry Maguire, I'm not convinced. He suits a low block system, he suits the five at the back system, but I don't think he's a four at the back player, so I don't think Harry Maguire could be starting, if I'm honest. Gahey,
I think he's kind of fallen off a little bit towards this latter part of the season, probably because of Palace's form. But I'm not convinced by him as a centre back. Colwell, not good enough for me. And then there's kind of other names like Tomori, injured, Chris Smalling, injured. So I think it's got to be Lewis Dunk and John Stones for me personally. Now on to the left back position. Now there's kind of two names in the hat here. Would have been three if Rico Henry hadn't got injured, because I think he was on his way to pushing into that starting 11 or even just competing with the injuries to the other two left backs. But it's got to be Chilwell for me now. I know Chilwell and Shaw is the choice. But for me, Chilwell offers you so much more going forward. Like, Chilwell is an elite level fullback. I know he's had a lot of injuries, but we've seen as soon as he's come back into this Chelsea side, they've looked so much more exciting and a lot better going forward. Now, Luke Shaw is an interesting one. I know he's been very good for England in previous years, but I think he suits the 5 at the back system. He's another one of these players that really suits the system, and I just think Chilwell offers you so much more going forward. And as I said, I think England have got to go into this tournament and be a bit more forward thinking, realise that we are one of the best attacking sides in the entire tournament, so we've got to use that to our strengths and go on, kind of push at sides, keep on pushing and really put teams under pressure. So Chilwell would start for me. Luke Shaw, don't get me wrong, is a great player, but in the 4 at the back system, I think Chilwell will excel a lot more. Then there aren't really any other left backs. I don't think Tyreek Mitchell really should be in with a shout. It's kind of just those two. And for me, this is just me personally, I'd have Chilwell. Now, what I said in this, what I haven't said already in this video is I'm going to be playing a 4-3-3 system, kind of a 2 box-to-box midfielders, a number 10, and then 3 wingers. Now onto my midfield 3 for England. I want 2 box-to-box midfielders and then a number 10. So let's talk about the 2 box-to-box midfielders. Now, the first one has got to be Declan Rice. I think he picks himself, let's be honest. But then the other box-to-box midfielder position, I think, is the one that's up for grabs. There's no one really right now who's going, that's my position. There's a lot of people in the hat. You've got your likes of James Ward-Prowse, who personally I don't think is good enough for England. I think he's a great player, but I just think that's just a step too far. Calvin Phillips hasn't been playing enough, and even if he does play for West Ham and has had a good season, I still don't think he's got enough game time in the bank, let's be honest. Ross Barkley, people are shouting the name out. He's had a very good season, but don't get me wrong, I think that's too far. But the one I want next to Declan Rice, I want Curtis Jones. Now, I think Curtis Jones has had a very, very, very good season, and I feel like it's gone under the radar and very underrated. When you look at that Liverpool midfield, we've talked about the signings they've made in the summer. They've signed Gravenberch, they've signed McAllister, Endo, they've signed lots of players, and currently the midfield 3, Curtis Jones has made that one position his own. He's kept Gravenberch, bearing in mind this is a Champions League footballer, out of the squad. Curtis Jones has been a man mountain this season. I think he's kind of in for a shout to make that England squad, and to be honest, that midfield 2 position with him and Declan Rice, I think would really work together. He's shown he's defensively capable. He's been really good going forward. I think he's kind of made that position his own at Liverpool, and I feel like he's got to be in with a shout to start for England. So those 2 would be my box-to-box midfielders. I think them 2 together would offer you so much going forward, as I said, and that defensive stability. Now into number 10 for England, I think now this is an interesting one for me. It's got to be Jude Bellingham. I know a lot of people are saying he's got to play in that box-to-box midfielder role, but I think people are forgetting how good he has been at Real Madrid. People are trying to find a way to get players like Phil Foden in, trying to get Maddison in, but Jude Bellingham is better than both of those players. Jude Bellingham has been absolutely unreal for Real Madrid. He's broken records, goal-scoring records, assists, man of the match performances. We have to play this man in his actual position. I don't understand why we're trying to facilitate other players to get into the squad when he is by far the best player in that number 10 role. It is his position. He's made it his own at Real Madrid, a Galactico right now. This guy has to start for England in that number 10 role, and you need him as close as you can to your striker. What he'll offer you going forward is absolutely huge. He's got grit as well, which I think he'll help, and he can drop into that midfield 3. I think as a midfield 3, Bellingham, Rice and Jones would work so well, but keep seeing this narrative online that people want him to play in that number 8 role, in a box-to-box, or even in a holding role like he did at some points for Birmingham City, and at some points like he did for Borussia Dortmund. But as I'm saying, you lose out so much by not playing him in that number 10, and I don't understand it. I feel like people want players like Phil Foden and your Maddison's, players that are playing in our domestic league, in the Premier League, but Jude Bellingham is by far better. Like, it's not even a comparison between those 2 players. He's elite, probably the best number 10 on the planet right now, so he's got to start there. Now on to the wingers position. Now, this one again is a bit of an interesting one. In years gone by, I feel like they'd have picked themselves, but I think there's been kind of a transition with the wingers. So we'll start off on that left-hand side. I want Jack Grealish starting for England. I think what he offers you is so different to any other winger we've got in the squad. Now, I know we've got a lot of wingers that we could be playing in all of these positions. So you've got your likes of Foden, you've got your likes of Bowen. There is Rashford. even Sancho if he kind of does well. But I think there's something that Grealish offers you that no other player in this team can offer you. The capability on the ball, the way he dribbles with the ball, the way he drives with the ball, the way he wins possession back, because defensively he's an extremely good winger, which kind of goes unnoticed. But I think the fact that he draws players out of position, and I think that's massive at an international level. Teams that are so robust when we're going against sides that are trying to get a draw against us, trying to get a clean sheet. Grealish is kind of one of those players that you really want in your team. Bringing players out of teams, kind of driving at sides, getting fouls, winding up players. I really like him, and I think he just offers something completely different that no one else can offer. I think players like Rashford's and your Bowens are kind of players that you want to bring on as impact subs. Maybe even Sterling. I don't really think he should be in the England fold anymore. I don't think he's good enough, and we've seen he hasn't really hit the heights that he was in previous years. Got Grealish, for me, has got to start for England. I think he's had a good season as a bit part player for City, but I think people look into that too much because at City, as a winger, you're going to become a bit part player. That's just the way Pep does his thing. So, yeah, I want Grealish on that left-hand side. I think what he offers you, there's no one else that can offer you that. And at international level, I think it's absolutely huge. So, yeah, Grealish on that left-hand side for me. Now, on to the right. Now, a lot of people now, this is where people kind of really like throw names into the hat, discuss players, but I think this guy picks his own position. On the right-hand side for England, it's got to be Bukayo Saka. Bukayo Saka is absolutely unreal, and I still can't get over just how young this player is. He's absolutely massive for England. He was huge in the last tournament, and I think he'll be huge again in this tournament, and he's been absolutely unreal again for Arsenal this season, and that's how good he is. Kind of people are talking about him not having a great season, but let's be honest, this is an elite level winger, set himself standards which are absolutely ridiculous year in, year out. He's got to start on that right hand side. He started last year, and we've spoken about it being really difficult to kind of break into a Southgate side, but he did that. And that just shows how good a winger he is. So we want him on that right-hand side, cutting in on that left-hand side, cutting in on that left foot, whipping balls into your likes of Kane and your other wingers, and kind of offering that defensive stability as well, because he's played as a defender. We know he can help going backwards. So yeah, I want Saka on that right-hand side. I think he's one of the players in this team. I think there's only a few positions that pick themselves. I think Pickford picks himself. I think John Stones does. I think Declan Rice does. Jude Bellingham does. And Bukayo Saka. And I think this is why England are going to have such a good tournament and really should be going into this expecting to win. Like, you need to set yourselves high standards, because we are, bar France, the favourites for this tournament, one of the better sides going into it. And when you've got players like Bukayo Saka, you realise just how good your team is, because this guy is an elite level winger in a class of his own right now, up there with some of the world's best, in my opinion. Now, on to the striker position. I did kind of just forget, Kane does also pick his own position as well. I completely forgot to mention him. But yeah, Harry Kane has got to start for England. Now, I want even Tony maybe, or Callum Wilson in the squad. Like, I want those players in and around the squad. I don't think Solanke should be making the squad, but Harry Kane has got to start. He's got to be the main man. This guy is absolutely unreal, has been absolutely amazing for Bayern Munich, kind of hit new levels, hit new standards that we didn't know he could go to. Like, let's be honest, he's absolutely killing it there. Already broken Gerd Muller's record, kind of non-stop goals, and how I knew he was doing really well. I was watching the Bayern Munich highlights against Augsburg on the weekend, and the commentator said Harry Kane has ended his goal drought. So I thought, do you know what, let's have a look. He hadn't scored for 2.5 games. That just shows you the level that he's set himself this season. 2.5 games without scoring a goal is considered a goal drought, but this guy has been absolutely unreal. We've seen him at previous tournaments, captain in the side, a leader, a legend. And let's be honest, I think he's got a point to prove after missing that penalty and letting his country down. I think this tournament now is his own, where he's got to kind of become that main man. And I know he's been great for England, but I think he's got to lead by example now in this tournament after that mistake in the previous one. This is his moment, his kind of redemption arc. This is the time when Harry Kane needs to lift a trophy, and I believe him, and he's got to do it. Come on, Harry Kane, do this. Not just for the nation, do it for me. But yeah, Harry Kane has got to start for England for me. I don't think it's even a discussion, let's be honest. So that is my England 11. So I'll run through it again for you. My England 11 for the Euros. In goal, Jordan Pickford. Right back, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Centre-backs of John Stones and Lewis Dunk. Left back, Ben Chilwell. A midfield 3 with the 2 box-to-box midfielders being Declan Rice and Curtis Jones. Number 10 position, Jude Bellingham. On that right-hand side, Bukayo Saka. On that left-hand side, then Jack Grealish. And up top, Harry Kane. And that is the team that will win the Euros. Thank you for watching, though. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Please do smash the like button. Please do subscribe. Lots of videos coming your way, but thank you. BucketHatSam over and out. Thank you. Peace.